introduction to the tour while I just quickly finish up with Andrea. Before I run away, I have right here, this is a QR code for the app we're going to use on your smartphone for the tour. The QR code is right here. Okay? I sent people that registered an email with this last night or this morning, I forget. If you don't have the app for the smartphone for the tour, come scan this QR code and you'll get it because we have photos. And we're going to look at the photos. The app is free. Okay? So, okay, I'm going to find Andrea. Nathan, tell us about the tour.
Okay. I don't know. Questions? No. So what you have to know about Hill Street is that a long time ago, there was a reason it was called Hill Street, believe it or not. It's because, you know, you had your, yes. What, anyone know why? There was a hill! There was an actual freaking hill there. You know, you had way out in the, you had over there, you had, you know, Calle Principal, you had like Main Street, you had Spring, you had your 4th Street, which is now Broadway, and then there was this hill there, and so they called it Hill Street, and it ran to about what is 1st Street, and then, you know, the hill went this way, and went like that, and all the way to Spring. And it was lined with cute little residential houses there as it headed up to Bunker Hill, you know, to Olive and to Grand and to Bunker Hill Avenue along the top, which was subdivided about 1874. And so, because it was the bottom of this residential area of Bunker Hill, it began to go commercial at the turn of the century, around the end of the 19th century. And so you start seeing these wonderful, well, first you start seeing these sort of Victorian hotels, like the Sherman. It was a place where like Robert Brown Young and architects like that started applying their trade. And then it becomes sort of commercial with large Beaux-Arts office buildings instead of the sort of bay-windowed and dormered and towered hotels and stuff like that. And by about 1920, you know, it was this very thick, you know, the way we think of like Broadway or Spring now, it was this very tall, very thick commercial corridor with large hotels and large, like the Belmont, which we're going to talk about, and large commercial structures like the Black Building and the Wright and Callender buildings, were two like 13-story Beaux-Arts office buildings now completely gone because Hill Street sort of, you know, ran a little seedy through the 40s and 50s. By the 1960s, the Community Redevelopment Agency got their eyes on it and said, you know, it's beyond reclamation. You know, it just can't be fixed. There's nothing we can do with all this grime, all these grifters and these B-girls and the men with the pulled-down hats and all that other stuff that basically, you know, the Chandler family in the LA Times said, you know, had to go. All this seedy stuff was too close to the LA Times, so just tearing it all down. So they tore it all down. There are some little bits and pieces that still remain. So we're going to start right out here. We're going to look a little bit across 2nd Street, and then we're going to sort of tootle down Hill Street. We're going to end up in Pershing Square. We're going to talk a lot about Pershing Square and about some of the wacky stuff that's happening there now. There's going to be, as I'm sure you're all familiar with, there have been many a remodel of Pershing Square, and now there's a new one in the works. The question is, what's going to happen to the all-important statuary there, historic? It's been said, what did they say? We're not going to let some stinking statuary get in the way of our remodel of Pershing Square. So, geez, what else is there to say? Don't forget to do that thing with the QR code, which stands for the Quetzalcoatl ratio. Little known fact. It's called pocket sites. Any questions about Hill Street? You know, the street right above it was called Clay Street. That street, completely gone. It's vanished. It's called Clay because that's where the clay pits were along the hill. Our first brick building in Los Angeles was the city jail. Because the guys in the jail, because it was like an adobe building, basically you could just sort of spit on it and dig through it. So they finally said, we need bricks. So they went to the clay, fired bricks, built a jail, 1853. Little known fact. Andrea Alonso, everybody. The woman who runs this place. We owe it all to her. Any questions? Any answers? Any rags, any bubbles, any bottles today?
Yeah, I need the mic.
We'll say 76.
James, you and I have to break down the tables now. Okay, Nathan, Kim, are you ready to move?
Yes.
Okay, we're gonna move.
On the water.
We're gonna start to move. Yes. We are gonna walk upstairs, and Nathan, you're gonna lead everyone to the Hill Street entrance to the market. And just wait for me there. It'll take me a couple minutes just to break down the tables. So we're gonna go up to Hill Street. We're going to go outside. We're going to talk about the parking lot for the market, which was the FP Fay Building in the Belmont Hotel across the street, and then we'll make our way south onto Hill Street to Pershing Square. So I will see you just upstairs, and James and I are going to break everything down.
The Brookdale, okay, what did you call the Redwood, or what do they say?
The Clifton's Brookdale, it was a Bose Brothers cafeteria, which when it was taken over by Clifford Clinton in 1935, he hired the architectural firm of Wardman and Beckett to remake it into a sort of a Northwoods style.
Right.
He also had the famous Clifton's Pacific Seas at 618 South Olive.
It still has a bit of that thing.
I might add that they are now working on an homage to the Clifton's Pacific Seas. They're building a big, fat, crazy tiki bar up in the Clifton's Brookdale. Should be opening in mid-July. A lot of this stuff from the former Bahuka restaurant, the great tiki place down on Rosemead, which shuttered recently. That's going to be up there in the new Clifton, in the new tiki place in Clifton's.
And the original site was on Olive, that vacant lot on Olive, right?
Exactly. Directly across from the Oviatt building. Exactly, on that vacant lot. And Kim, isn't it true that there's some ivy in that parking lot that might be, or some sort of tropical vegetation that might be from the original facade?
That's my theory, that it was so covered in plant matter that now that wall of brick that has ivy growing on it.
Back part of the parking lot?
Maybe it's Clifton's, I don't know.
Yeah, that was made into a parking lot in 1960, so a little before my time.
Maybe they took some cuttings and they moved it up to the penthouse at the Oviatt building across the street.
Tell you what, let's go stand over there. Under some shade. All right, so now I know what we're supposed to do is you're all supposed to take out your phones and do something. She knows how to do it. She did it last time. Do something. I have no idea what.
Tell us what to do, my dear, you know.
Pocket sites, just open the app and turn your location on, and that should be it, I think.
Open your Pocket Sites app. That's POCKETSIGHTS. Open the app and so basically it works like this. As we walk along and you've got your teletype out or whatever, you go, hello, Sarah, get me 8. And then it'll GPS you, and you'll be like, look, we're here. And there'll be little photos of like how this looked in 1963 and other cool stuff. Apparently it's pretty cool. I wouldn't know because I'm 11.
Well, the 21st century. I'm still in the 19th century. Sorry.
There you go. I'm still waiting for my carrier pigeon to come back and tell me what the Tiarina said about dinner tonight.
I still write on typewriter.
Yeah, if the other one is selected. And I have a question.
Yes, my dear.
Is the standard tour mode or the free roam mode?
What's your innate like now?
Yes? I don't know.
One is pretty well great, but how much are we looking for?
I don't know. Select either one to start.
These are questions for Richard, who has a degree in computer science.
But no, it doesn't matter. Once you're
The last computer I worked on was a Univac.
get started.
I was in charge of the vacuum tubes.
Yeah, and then you press start.
I made $1 a day.
Which one do you want to do?
Standard one seems to be if you want to cover the entrance hall bit, the free one is
Sounds like it's more optional.
Grand Central Market starts over on Broadway in the Homer Laughlin building. Wait, no, it starts in 1917 because they expanded the Homer Laughlin building this way in 1905. This is one of the very early steel reinforced concrete buildings, but not the first. The first was, there's a lot of argument about what was the first steel reinforced concrete building, because which was the one to use steel rivets and which was steel bolted. But I think the argument really stands which is the first steel frame riveted building, which of course was the T.D. Stimson office building at 3rd and Spring, which is generally according to our first skyscraper, a Richardsonian Romanesque building designed by Carroll H. Brown. It was super awesome. So what is our first, who's got it open? What's our first stop? I think this.
Yeah,
And
Grand
then,
Central
so there
Market's
should be
our
some
first
little
stop.
pictures of this place with its 1960s facade.
Second stop is FP Fay Building.
Second stop is the FP Fay Building.
Former location.
Cool. Let's go. All right. Gather around. Yeah. Bunker Hill in all its glory. One of the great, one of the great, at 121 Hill Street, right over there, was a hotel called the El Moro. That was by a couple of architects called Dennis and Farwell, who were great. What did they do? They did Kimberly Crest out in Redlands, which there's if you've ever been to the Magic Castle, that place is a little smaller version of Kimberly Crest. They also did the Jane's House on Hollywood Boulevard, which is the last Victorian on Hollywood Boulevard, you know, the one right in the thick of it, pushed back from the street. And right here was a 1904 height limit, steel reinforced concrete, wonderfully Beaux-Arts office building, which when you compare it to, see across the street over there was another height limit building, which is by Train & Williams, which was all done in sort of Spanish Chirigaresque up top, and that was 1901 for Conservative Life Insurance Company. And so Dennis and Farwell look at that and they say, we're not having it. We're going to do something completely spare, totally modern. It was an incredibly important, magnificent building, but Ira Yellen. What?
How many stories was the building?
12 stories. That's tall for 1904. And there's a picture of it. Here, you can hold that up and show everybody. There's a picture of it on your app.
Yeah.
So,
This one.
right here.
Yeah.
But this is the parking garage. Why? Because Ira Yellen owned the FP Fay Building, as well as the Grand Central Market and the $1 Million Theater. And he said, well, Kim, correct me if I got the story right. I think I do. But he basically said, you know, city, if you want me to restore these things, I'm going to need parking for them. So write me a demo permit for this thing.
I think it was actually that there was a lot of funding if you built this transit-ready development, so there was a real incentive to make this into a parking lot.
Right.
Talking about Yellen?
Yeah.
His first name?
Ira. So he came down with his wrecking balls and he knocked down the FP Fay Building, which is why we have this very strange-looking parking garage now. But at least there's parking there. So when people say like, "Where'd you park?" I always say like, "Oh, in the FP Fay Building," and people know exactly what I mean. For example, when we go to like Clifton's or something like that, you say like, "Where'd you park?" You say like, "Oh, in the Lankershim Hotel," because you know the corner of 7th and Broadway, there's a parking lot now there, and you know it's the old Barbara Brown Young Lankershim Hotel. The next stop on your tour is...
Wait, do you have to say anything about John Fante?
Oh! That's right. John Fante, the author who lived up on Bunker Hill at the corner of 3rd and Bunker Hill Avenue, just behind you, which is now gone. Bunker Hill Avenue has been wiped away just like... There he is. There's John Fante in the cafeteria. John Fante, who knows who John Fante is?
Is that one of the
John Fante, famous Colorado-born Italian-American author who... You have all his books.
Yeah.
How do you like
back.
Very much. Yes, I identify to some extent with him.
Yes.
I'm the female version.
We have the female version of... We have Jane Fante here.
And his son came and talked to the... his son lives in Malibu, right?
Yeah.
Boy.
Yeah, his son has been involved with Kim and Richard for a long time. In fact, they were instrumental in John Fante Square, which is just down here.
His son, may he rest in peace.
Oh.
Oh, he passed away.
Dan died last year. Last year, yeah.
But which was his cafeteria? He said that he went to which cafeteria?
To the cafeteria in the FP Fay Building.
Which building?
Right here, which is not here. Which is demolished in 1995 and replaced with this.
Looks like he worked there.
And there he is working there.
Yeah, he's serving.
So
He's a waiter, right?
In Ask the Dust, when Arturo Bandini meets Camilla with the dirty feet and the sandals and the la 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 and the bad coffee, that is based on the cafeteria in the FP Fay Building.
Wow.
Right here. So the next time you're driving around in there looking for a spot, remember, this is where the coffee was sloshed on the table. Don't see the movie. Well, see the movie. They made a movie of Ask the Dust. And instead of actually shooting anywhere in Los Angeles, they decided to build a really weird version of Bunker Hill in Cape Town in a soccer field, and it was very strange.
But it's the same as this building. There were tax benefits of doing it.
Exactly. As long as there are tax benefits,
Yes.
in that case. The next stop is the Hotel Belmont. Well, the Belmont, interestingly, much in the way that this has roughly the same, except for this weird cutout part right here, which I don't understand, but much in the way that this has sort of the same massing and almost like fenestration, and it's kind of stuff like that, as the late lamented FP Fay Building. The way that this part of Angelus Plaza sort of juts out towards the street, see that large jutting out part? Imagine that is the 1908 Arthur Benton YWCA. See right there, you had that little that sanitarium building on the corner that we talked about last time. If anyone was here last time, we talked about that. And then next to it, you had this 11-story YWCA, which was very famous for its magnificent light well that was all tiled inside. Just a gorgeous building. The YWCA leaves it for larger climbs down near the Hotel Figueroa. Then it becomes the Union League for a while. Union League, of course, you all know as the incipient Republican club. And it becomes the Hotel Belmont. They put like $1 million into making it this wonderfully lavish place, but as the streak sort of declines into a sort of genteel disrepair, let us say. There's all sorts of crazy stories. I wrote a whole blog about the Belmont on Bunker Hill about all the... Oh, thank you, Richard. What did I have? Yo. On the mic. And I wrote all sorts of crazy stories about like all the suicides and murders and robberies, and the Belmont was just a very colorful place for that sort of thing. So there's some shots on your app of some images inside that. Well, anyway, so what was interesting about the Belmont too is it hung on. There were a few that really hung on a real long time, like the Hotel Northern up there on Clay hung on until about 1971. The Belmont hung on until 1971, until it too finally, the Community Redevelopment Agency decided enough is enough with all this genteel disrepair, and it had to go and be replaced by, again, something of the same massing. So sometimes I like to squint and pretend it's the Belmont. Usually when I'm staggering around here all drunk in the middle of the night. Which is... Yes, Ricardo.
You want to talk about, because I know we can barely see it, you want to talk about the Hotel Wanda, which is it's the last remaining SRO. We'll go there on another tour, but just I think as a thought exercise.
Well, as you're driving home, just as you pass the 2nd Street Tunnel, and you'll see the Hotel Kawada. That's the old Hotel Astor. It was built in 1924. That's one of the last remaining bits of old Hill Street. Old SROs. And the whole topic of SROs is a whole other kettle of fish.
What's SRO? Can you hold this and I want to read the John Fante quote?
Absolutely.
Okay,
Positively. John Fante.
You gotta go over there. Okay. Kim, can I see the phone for a second?
Oh, yes, of course. You're crowding me, mister.
Okay, so I'm opening up pocket sites. Okay, I'm going to former site of the FP Fay Building. Okay. So does everyone see that it's a photo of a bellboy of a busboy from the 1930s. Does everyone see that? That's John Fante. Okay, so this parking lot, did Nathan talk about the FP Fay Building a bit? Okay, good. All right, so...
You talked about Fante working here, too.
Good. I just want to read the article from... Okay, this photo was taken for the Los Angeles Examiner, and it's in August of 1933, and I'm going to read the article. It's a great interview with John Fante. And the photograph is of John Fante in Coral Hatton who's the cashier at the Marcus Grill. And I just want to read the article. John Fante is one of my great heroes, and the opening passage of John Fante's final novel, Dreams from Bunker Hill, opens here at the Marcus Grill, which is in the FP Fay Building. And I'm sorry Donald Spivak isn't here. He could talk about the finance. So Ira Yellen was told by so before the MTA there was the RTD, but also the RTD there was an entity called the LACTC, the Los Angeles Community Transit something, that the CRA invented because the CRA didn't want RTD building light rail because they didn't think they knew what they were doing. And the LACTC told Ira Yellen, if you tear down the FP Fay Building and put up a parking lot, we'll pass a bond measure and give you all the money to finance Grand Central Square. So he tore the FP Fay Building out. Okay, so this is the article about the photo on the tour app. Headline, August 7th, 1933. Headline, busboy during day, at night he's an author. Youth, 22, would rather be good dish carrier than bad writer. First novel sold. John Fante fans will note that 1933 was not John Fante's first novel sold. He will go on and lie and say that he has a novel sold called Mater Dolorosa, which was a lie. That's okay, he always lied. Story. By day he juggles dishes, a briskly efficient busboy. By night he burns the midnight oil, weaving words into patterns that win the praise of literary connoisseurs. And it's all the same to John Fante, 22-year-old Italian-American. Whether or not he stays as a busboy as long as he can write. Money means nothing, he declared yesterday, and achievement means everything. First novel sold. His first novel, Mater Dolorosa, is nearly completed. Sold it from synopsis to Alfred A. Knopf, the publisher. 6 of Fante's terse, vivid stories have appeared in that criterion of meritorious wordage, the American Mercury. So what, asks Fante. I'm no literary lion. I've got to eat. Checks and royalties don't grow on trees, and I don't care much about them anyway. I'd rather be known in the barbecue lunchroom as a busboy who knows his dishes than be a hack writer turning out pot boilers. Editorial aid. Besides carrying dishes and filling in as a waiter at the lunchroom at 238 West 3rd Street, Fante acts as editorial assistant to Jean de Coley, author's agent. I don't think I'm a genius, he declares. I'm just hardworking. I see a lot of life. I try and write simply, graphically, trying to justify the faith once evinced in me by H.L. Mencken and Carrie McWilliams, the Los Angeles writer who urged me to go forward, even only after reading my first efforts. Fante's been writing less than a year. He's a graduate of Regis High School, Denver, and has 2 years at the University of Colorado. But I do believe, he declared, a busboy learns as much as a college student. That's it. That's John Fante really beginning his life as a writer.
He lived right up the steps.
John Fante lived on Bunker Hill. Those of you on the tour last time, we were up at California Plaza at the gateway, at the station house for Angel's Flight, and John Fante lived at the Alta Loma, which was about, do you know, everyone know where the Wells Fargo Tower is on the top of the gate? That's basically where he lived.
Okay.
So I think at this point, Nathan, we should start walking south to the Clark.
Whatever's next on
The Clark.
I think Angel's Flight.
Oh, Angel's Flight. Yeah, let's walk back to Angel's Flight and we'll talk about Angel's Flight. La Cita. Yes, we have photos of La Cita. So let's go back to Grand Central to La Cita. Nathan, I'll hold the PA.
Okay, how about 1 hour down? Where will you go?
Here, it's yours.
Sorry.
I'd go hang outside the Claude Gilman's Sun Realty building on Hill Street down there at the 600 block.
600?
Yeah,
What is the building?
the Sun Realty. What's the name of Claude Bielman's green terracotta building on the
Sun
Sun
Realty.
Yeah,
Beautiful building.
beautiful building. I
Hill
just
on
stand.
6th.
Yeah. I just stand across the street and stare at it. That's what I do.
Okay. That's a good point.
You
I'm
can
gonna
see
look
it.
for
It's,
it.
it's the green tower down there.
Oh, okay.
Beautiful building.
Now,
Sorry. I'm sorry.
Push up all the way.
oh wait, what was I going to say? I'm pushing all the way.
Sorry. I don't want
That's
to
what she
get
said.
inside.
Something Richard had said is that that Fante had lived in the Alta Loma at 3rd and Bunker Hill. He actually lived in the Alta Vista,
Oh, God,
which he
right.
then renamed the Alta Loma
in the novel.
in the novel.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Because the Alta Loma's in Hollywood.
Yeah, which is funny. And Bukowski, when talking about how he would go like walk the walk of his hero Fante, actually didn't read it correctly and thought that he had lived actually closer to this, to Angel's Flight, and actually lived all the way the other side of the hill. That's neither here nor there. Where it is here actually is here. Here we are at the La Cita, which, if you notice the
I think it's entry number 2 on the tour.
Los Angeles?
Yeah, 4. Oh, it's 4? Okay, sorry, 4. Entry number 4.
Does then, yeah, we're going in over. You put the thing together. I don't know. Anyway, so if I remember correctly, it is. Oh wait. Nah, I don't think I ever found its architect. There used to be 2 wonderful Victorian hotels immediately to its north between it. They were called the Markham and the Myrick. Totally intact and important all the way up until the mid-late 90s. I think both by Robert Brown Young. Both of those were torn down, but they left the brass rail. But you notice that the brass rails along the front? There's a reason for that, because it was the brass rail after it was the new Palace Cafe. And the brass rail featured prominently, if any of you have seen, and I'm sure you all have, otherwise you wouldn't be here, the movie The Exiles. When Yvonne is pregnant and she's walking along and Homer is out whooping it up like she's walking along, and she passes right in front of the brass rail, which was a noted cruisy gay club. It was part of the Run. So it's sort of an important little part of the world, because you look at it, it doesn't look like much here, but actually it's 1897. It was known as the, I think it's actually, I may have written it down in the notes there, the Alta Hotel or the Alpa? Alta. And Alpa, that's right, it was the Alpa with a P. And it was 3 stories all the way up until about 1984-85, when they decided to demolish the upper stories. So this is just all that's left of it, but it is sort of, an actual Victorian building left on Hill Street is pretty rare. And we are actually wondering about it, because of course this lot is slated for massive redevelopment.
La Cita's fine.
Okay.
That being
so,
said,
let's make sure, like the Cita was part of the hotel.
correct.
Okay.
When the hotel was up and running, it was a place where they're always finding people, because again, it was sort of Bunker Hill adjacent, so all sorts of, wacky business was going on in there. A lot of people died from alcoholism in that hotel. I don't know why exactly. There's a sort of a booze ghost in there. Bottom part of the hotel for a long time was the Pacific Hat Works, where there was a very famous fire in the 1920s. Wiped that out, and that's part of what then made it into a cafeteria later on. And, people don't, let's face it, who wants food? Ooh, when there's booze to be had. So that's what made it into the boozy establishment we know and love today.
It's the first club, the first bar in downtown, right? In LA?
No.
No?
No.
They told you that? There is something saying there that this is the first bar.
I would say the first bar in downtown was literally like the first
Bella
Spanish.
Union.
No, the first Spanish settler who walked up and basically built a sawhorse and a plank and put a bottle on it. It was like literally 2 minutes after walking into town. Probably a Franciscan monk.
Okay.
So they make a bar. There you go.
That's the oldest one as of today.
What is the oldest bar as of today? Oldest in continuous operation?
Everything closed during Prohibition, so you can't.
What's the one you go halfway down the street?
The King Eddie?
No, not the King Eddie.
The Coles?
Oh, Cliff
Coles.
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 Coles, yeah, Coles.
Okay. Coles is okay. Do you want to answer this question, or do you want me to?
You can. It's
Okay.
complicated. So
I mean, every bar closed at Prohibition. Okay, before Prohibition, you had liquor licenses, which are issued by the city, which are incredibly difficult to find. They're not under one file. The archive doesn't have them. The city clerk has sporadic copies. Once Prohibition ends, then ABC takes over liquor licenses, and you can't go look at liquor licenses. Like, they don't have a giant folder, and you just look for the older looking papers and go look at them. You have to ask them specific questions, and it's really hard. And the older liquor licenses in downtown are the Hotel Alexandria, the King Edward Hotel, Krabby Joe's. Any bar that has a takeaway liquor license downtown is a really, really old bar.
Isn't the one in the Woodward,
the Golden Gopher? The Golden
they got
Gopher.
a takeaway, and I think they may have maintained theirs during Prohibition because they actually had a prescription.
Yes.
So you could actually, if you were being prescribed,
Alcohol,
Which
like
is-
marijuana nowadays.
yeah, sacramental wines, or for booze for health. My doctor said so.
Okay,
But the thing about, but again, Kohl's, did shut down for about 10 years for its remodel in the mid 90s to the early 2000s. Something like
it
that.
closed down for a long time. I want to keep moving on. I don't want to talk
All right.
about old bars. So we're gonna. We're gonna talk about Angel's Flight. Well, let me talk about Angel's Flight.
Talk about it.
Here, wait, hold on.
You guys trade.
Okay, thank you. I'm drinking water, which is important. So, Angel's Flight is in crisis. Kim and Nathan and I are all members of the Friends and Neighbors of the Angel's Flight. Friends and Neighbors.
Angel's Flight
Flight fans. Angel's Flight Friends and Neighbors Society. And I don't know what's happening. Okay? We're all very concerned. We ask Hal Bastian and Adele Yellen every 2 weeks what's going on, and they say it'll be okay.
Oh, okay. But otherwise, what was the plans?
I don't know. No, the plans are not to destroy it. Okay? The plans are to save it and get it started again. Their Public Utilities Commission of the state of California has declared Angel's Flight unsafe and will not allow it to operate. This has been a 2.5-year bureaucratic quagmire, which I personally do not believe can be solved in the current situation. I don't know what the current situation is trying to do to solve it, but I really want it to reopen, and we did a fundraiser, and it was my understanding that the Office of the Mayor was putting attention behind it in November, and I've been told since March that things are going well, and I don't know what that means.
Who owns the property?
Okay, so Angel's Flight Railway is run by the Angel's Flight Railway Foundation, and the Angel's Flight Railway Foundation was created in 1996 when it was reopened after being closed for 26 years. And Adele Yellen, who owns Grand Central Market and lets us have the salon in the basement, is the chairperson of the Angel's Flight Railway Foundation. And Hal Bastian, former economic director of the DC BID, is president of Angel's Flight Railway Foundation.
Okay.
And it is operated. Oh no, it's not operated by
Owned,
John.
operated, or operated?
It's. I can't answer that question because I don't know the answer.
Well, what was it until recently?
Until recently, it was operated by John Welborn, who was its CEO of the foundation for like 25 years. But since it's a mess.
Wasn't there some brouhaha about
A tree branch?
No, we're not going to talk about
about the land beneath it being illegally sold?
So in the last 2 weeks, I got into trouble with Hal Bastian because I sent a downtown news article to everyone that signed the Angel's Flight petition. I don't know why I got into trouble. It's an article that, so this hill behind us was purchased by the Community Redevelopment Agency. It was seized by eminent domain by the CRA in 1960, basically. Between 1960 and 1965, they took over this entire hill, and the CRA, through a very complicated series of agreements, leased and sold parts of this hill to corporations to build California Plaza, Angeles Plaza, all these things. There are 5 or 6 parcels of land immediately behind us, which constitute a collection of parcels that were meant to be California Plaza 3, a third skyscraper. There are 2 giant skyscrapers immediately behind us. That's California Plaza 1 and 2. The last one was completed in '87, I believe, and the CRA was hot on the heels of closing the deal for California Plaza 3, which would be this site that goes down the hill. That deal fell through, and the CRA was dissolved in 2012, and I talked to the former Deputy Chief of Operations and Policy for the CRA about this stuff, and he doesn't know what's happening. So is that a sufficient explanation? Okay? It's really complicated. Okay? Like Kim and I have coffee with the former Deputy Chief of Operations and Policy for the CRA, and he doesn't know.
Yeah, but they put it up. They sold it for like nothing. They sold it for $1 million.
But what's happening, Nathan, is these parcels behind us are going up for bid by the successor agency to the CRA, and Angels Flight has a lease through 2082, and the Downtown News writes articles about all these things that might happen if there's a bidding war, and no one really knows what that means. Like, everyone thinks that... I'm going to stop talking about it. It's really complicated, and everyone who's concerned about Angels Flight should be concerned. Yeah, people would like to buy the parcels, but they're really small parcels, and you can't really develop on them. So why would you want to buy it? Because...
And plus, there's these 99-year leases.
Right, it's very complicated, and no one knows why people are going to court over bidding $1 million on a parcel of land that's basically worthless for the next 100 years. But they're causing lots of trouble, and I want to stop talking about Angels Light because we're really trying, and as soon as we know, we'll tell you. And Nathan, can we move down to the Hotel Clark? Sure. Let's go. I'll carry the PA.
What about the Willoughby?
What?
Where's the Willoughby?
The Willoughby's at 5th and Hill.
Oh, okay.
I haven't forgotten you.
Don't forget me.
Kim, I haven't forgotten you. I'll carry that.
Okay. So, Nathan, we're in back of me is the Clark Hotel. I believe that's stop. Can I see the phone, Kim? Is that stop number 5?
Stop 5. Find your Clark. Find your inner Clark.
Okay, I'm looking at my phone. It's number 6.
Yep.
Thank you. The Clark Hotel is site number 6. So Nathan, why don't you take the phone and walk us through some of these photos that we see on the app. I'll hold your hat for you and your coat.
Thank you.
Whoop. There we go. Okay.
All right. Well, let's see. How do we do this? Look over someone's shoulder. You don't have a la 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 la. Oh, look at that. Well, the photos are kind of. So, has everyone got the? So the first photo is of this yellow lobby. Okay, good. We all got that. That is okay. Everyone's heard of the leisure. Okay. Chris Nichols wrote a very great book. It's called The Leisure Architecture of Wayne McAllister. Wayne McAllister, super important architect, did California Modern, did a lot of coffee shops and restaurants and racetracks and stuff like that. And he did a remodel of the Clark in 1953. It's black. And in the next photo,
Is that the front of the building where we are here?
correct. What do we have here? The picturesque Orleans Room. These photos are kind of backwards. They should be going the other way. And then a unique tavern. Which was inside the Clark. Kind of want to get to like a exterior. I can't. The Pacific Room Cocktail Lounge, which was what the part of the restaurant was remade as. There we go. There's the. Okay, so here's a nice shot of the restaurant as it was before it was remodeled into the Pacific Room, but a lot of it was still totally intact. And then the next shot is, there we go, of the lobby. We gotta figure out how we can order these.
Yeah, we have to. I know. I've written them. I know. I have an email out to them.
So the fabulous Hotel Clark lobby. I might point out that when this building opened in 1913, it was the largest marble lobby in the western United States. Here's another shot of the lobby. Looking fantastic. All designed by Harrison Albright. There's the mezzanine above the lobby. which was closed in with a drop ceiling in the 1953 Wayne McAllister remodel, but much like it had the same sort of deal that the Alexandria did, with that sort of lobby with the mezzanine circling it above, and then had the drop ceiling, but it could have been removed. And then and so there you go. This is a photo of the Clark back in the day. It's about, I think that's a Dick Whittington photo from 1939. So what you have here is you have the Hotel Clark with its great 1937 neon sign, and so Harrison Albright, 1913, and then this addition that Eli P. Clark and company also built by Walker and Eisen, whom we know from everything, including the Oviatt building. That's where a Woolworth was put in. Oh, no problem.
Yeah, it says Woolworth. The picture. Okay. I can't see.
And those two little holes there, that's where, flags used to stick out of. And then a general view of the Clark in all of its glory. Anyway, well, let me just go on about the Clark in general. So you've seen the photos. You know what it used to look like. So it's 1913. So Eli P. Clark, who basically also, I might add, built this, because Clark, who was a real estate guy, but basically he was very important in railroads, had a ton of money, and he said, I want the biggest, baddest hotel in Los Angeles that will outdo all the others. And he did. Harrison Albright, 1913, steel reinforced, but this sort of great, classical masterpiece of wonder. I love note the ornamental fire escapes with the H and the C and all that. So by the 60s through the 80s, it sort of becomes a place for long-term elderly tenants. Sort of like much of Bunker Hill, which was sort of full of pensioners, was for the urban poor. The elderly urban poor was full of elderly tenants, and they're all very happy there. And it's about 300-400 long-term tenants in there, until it is purchased by the Chinese government. The Chinese government decided they're going to make it into a cultural center. They're going to, have their wares there, and people can come in and buy stuff and stuff like that. So they present a plan to the CRA, and they say, we want you to sign off on this. Basically, the entire interior is completely intact. It's either completely intact, 1913, or that 1953 Wayne McAllister remodel. And the CRA says, do it, gut it, gut the sucker. And so the Chinese say, okay, we got to evict all these elderly people, toss them out. And turns out they're having a little bit of trouble with this, because maybe in China you can just boot them out. But they sort of were like, we don't really dig having to wait and stuff, and they were fighting it. And Mayor Bradley's office is like, I don't know anything about it. So what they did, God bless them, is they put scaffolding over all of the, onto the fire escapes, and then they filled all the interior stairwells with construction debris, so that Department of Building and Safety comes and says, this place is completely unsafe. They get the fire department in, they tell the 200 elderly people, you have 30 minutes. The fire department is taking you out. And they put them into and I kid you not, a relocation camp in Pershing Square. In the middle of summer, in 1988, they put 200 elderly people in these tents. 1988, where they stayed in their little basically it's like putting them on. I mean, I hate to call the to mind, but it's like putting them on boxcars. It's like no, it's for your own good. It's safer. It's like when the people went to Manzanar and they're like, what are the the guns on the towers for? They're like, oh, it's for your protection. It's like, well, then where are the guns pointed in? So they take all the elderly people out, they kick them out and put them over there, and so the Chinese proceed to then gut the place, and it sits for 20 years, just rotting away. And then the Chetrits, God bless them, in their infinite wisdom, they buy the place, and the Chetrit group, they're a couple of brothers?
Yeah, they're brothers.
Yeah.
New York family.
Although apparently they're having a fight now. But anyway, the main one that owns this one is Jakob Jakob Chetrit.
It's my former locker mate at the athletic club.
Yeah, his former locker mate at the athletic club. Their MO is this. They don't go into a place looking to fix it up and gentrify the neighborhood. They buy a place like, say, the Bank of Italy building.
Italy, 6th, 7th and Olive.
7th and Olive. Or say the Trinity Auditorium.
9th and
Grand?
Grand.
Yeah. And they say, we'll let it sit and rot. So, I mean, we've seen pigeons flying in and out of the Bank of Italy building for 25 years. And we'll let the neighborhood gentrify first, and then we'll open up the place. So you know, I've been watching this place for the last 10 years. I've seen, you know, mattresses go in and out. I've seen light fixtures sort of stuff. Apparently they fixed the neon sign because it went on for like 10 minutes once, like about 5 years ago. That's it. So if you ever read, like, you know, Curb de LA, about every 18 months, 2 years, there's a thing that says, like, the Hotel Clark is going to open. And then another 2 years goes by and it says, the Hotel Clark is going to open. So about 6 months ago it said it's going to open. So I figured in about another
5 years.
18 months or something, there'll be another, you know, it's going to open.
So it's sitting empty right now.
Yeah, it's been empty since '88. And there it sits. They sort of gave it this beige paint job because people love to paint stuff beige. That whole gutted part over there, they just decided, well, as long as it's gutted, we'll just put parking in it. And I'm dying to get into it. I mean, I own all this Clark stuff. I've got, like, you know, pins from the busboys. I've got, like, all their little, like, you know, candle holders that you would carry around when the electricity went out in the 20s. I've got all sorts of towels and soaps and glasses and all this. I love Clark stuff. You know, I know the whole layout of, like, where all the different rooms were, all the little bars and cocktail lounges and restaurants. I'm dying to see, like, what they're going to do with the place, but, you know, much like the, what was it, the Ace Hotel, where they, like, said, well, when we make the Walker and Eisen room, we'll paint it on the wall with, like, I can't even discuss it.
We're going to keep moving. We're going to walk down the block to the Title Guarantee Building, and we're going to talk about John Parkinson, the California Club, and the back block. Okay, so we're just going to walk straight ahead and stop. There's your hat, there's your coat. Bring up the rear.
They got them housing elsewhere.
I would like Bill Ellinger to quickly introduce himself and talk about the California Club. No?
Is there a picture?
Yeah. Yeah.
Can I use the phone cam? Brought picture. You gotta stand a little over here, away from the microphone.
And tell everyone to leave a walkway, darling.
If everyone could leave a walkway just a little bit.
Well, Richard didn't prepare me for this, but anyway, on this corner, long before this building was built, which dates from, 1920-something, pre-crash, there was the California Club. Now the California Club is over behind the Central Library on Flower Street. But the California Club building, the predecessor of this building, was designed by John Parkinson, preeminent architects and architectural firms in Los Angeles for many decades.
It's dead. Okay, the PA's died.
I'm not sure how long the original building survived.
Bill, the PA just died.
Oh, well, okay, next time.
Okay, so the California, if everyone opens their app, okay. If we go to Pershing Square North, which is 1, 2, 3 after the Clark Hotel. So we're Pershing Square North. It's 3 after the Hotel Clark. 9. Try 9. Yeah, that's it. 9. If everyone goes to Pershing Square North, they'll see a photo of Pershing Square, and the second photo is of John Parkinson. Okay, that's John Parkinson. John Parkinson is the architect of the California Club. And that cropped that photo. There's a cropped photo after John Parkinson of the California Club on this site. On this site. That's it. That's it. You got it, man.
Touch it.
Touch it. Oh, okay, great.
So the California Club is 1910. That's 1910, 1911.
That way?
No, you're right. It's earlier. Yeah, it's earlier. Yeah, 1905. Thank you. So the California Club is 1905. What's interesting is that this building here now, the title guarantee building, the California Club moved across. We can't. When we get into Pershing Square, the California Club is just the other. It's just on Flower Street. We'll talk about the California Club moving, but the title guarantee building is built here in 1934. And where's Stephen G? Come here. Don't be shy. California Club moved to 5th and Flower.
When did they leave here?
They left about 1932 because this building started construction in 1934.
So the original building was torn down.
I don't think this was this their original building. I think they had a building before. I think they had a small I think they leased a room. They leased something very small, but this was their first proper building in 1905. And then they built the giant edifice at 5th and Flower Street, which everyone knows today. Stephen G., you are the leading art authority on John Parkinson. Say hi.
Bill might give me a run for my money.
No, come on. Come step forward and say hello to everyone.
Hello, everyone.
Hello. So you wrote the book about John Parkinson.
Right.
I love your shirt, by the way.
Thank you. It's very California black.
I know. We're not talking about Brexit, right?
We're not. Oh God, no! Please don't.
How's your father?
Yeah, it's good. Brexit's divided my family.
She's also British.
So I try and avoid it.
All right. So Stephen, tell us about this building. This is John and Donald Parkinson.
Oh, it's John and Donald Parkinson, but I would say it's largely Donald Parkinson, if Bill would agree with that. Donald Parkinson went to Paris in...
John's son.
John's son. In 1925 with Percy Winnett, who worked at Bullock's, at the Bullock's department store. And as you know, the 1925 exposition was the birth of Art Deco. And Donald Parkinson comes back all enthused about this new style and convinces his father to change the design of Bullock's Wilshire into Art Deco, and I think it has a massive influence on this building as well. This building's comes into life about the same time as Bullock's Wilshire, so it's an incredible legacy. The murals inside, I believe, are Hugo Ballin, who Parkinson worked with on the title insurance building, which I don't know which way you came, but you could also see Ballin's work on the title insurance building on Spring Street as well. So I see Richard's just left me out stranded.
Yeah.
You want to have anything else?
Where's he gone? Richard! We need your direction, darling.
The California Club is right here, and I mean, as Bill mentioned, that's Parkinson structure getting knocked down for another Parkinson structure in his lifetime.
How many times did that happen all told?
A few times, I believe it happened. I believe there was a building in Fresno that got knocked down that Parkinson worked on, and he was still alive. I don't know if you can think of any others, Bill, but this would be the main one.
So what was the LA Club? What was this building?
The California Club is one of the 3 great private clubs in Los Angeles. You have the Los Angeles Athletic Club, you have the Jonathan Club, and you have the California Club. I cannot speak to membership requirements of either the Jonathan or the California Club. I understand the Jonathan Club requires some equity investment, but don't quote me on that. I know nothing about the California Club, and the Los Angeles Athletic Club is a monthly fee with about $300 membership payment up front.
No women, only men.
The Los Angeles Athletic Club.
Gentlemen,
the Los Angeles Athletic Club accepts women, female. The Los Angeles Athletic Club does.
well, no, we're speaking of now versus when they originally...
Right, now going back,
the Los Angeles Athletic Club, the California Club, and the Jonathan Club were very exclusive institutions, racially segregated. Women were not members. The Los Angeles Athletic Club integrated in 1963, I was told, according to a longtime staffer. I don't know if the California Club or the Jonathan Club are integrated. I know that the City Club, which was a very short-lived entity in the progressive era, like 1910 progressive era, the City Club was reinvented by Mayor Tom Bradley, because when he was elected mayor, he was not invited to join the Jonathan Club, and every mayor in Los Angeles up to Tom Bradley had been given a membership in the Jonathan Club, unless they already were members, which they weren't offered. But
So that was my question. Presumably, from what you've just said, it was by invitation to become a member.
yes, absolutely.
Does that remain the case today?
Absolutely,
Or? Yeah.
absolutely.
So
The Los Angeles Athletic Club is not terribly exclusive.
No, it's not.
It's go ahead.
No, I just to say the building was also designed by Parkinson.
Thank you. I was going to get to that.
Okay.
The Los Angeles Athletic Club, which began life near Felipe's, built in 1912 its current structure at the corner of 7th and Olive, and that was a huge commission from Parkinson. Parkinson and Bergstrom, which was intrinsically connected to the drive to get the Olympics to Los Angeles. So in 1914, the Olympics were in 19... No, before, but...
No, 32 was the first.
1932.
I know, but what year were the Olympics around 1918? Because World War I, they canceled the Olympics in 1912. 1916. There's a point to this. 1916, they canceled the Olympics. The Los Angeles Athletic Club has been built. Harry Chandler's carried the note on the Los Angeles Athletic Club. He covered the note, the mortgage, because he really was committed, because all these civic boosters wanted the Olympics to come in 20 years, which it did. 1916, the Olympics are canceled, and the film industry in Los Angeles is born, because all the athletes in training at the athletic club have nothing to do, so Max Sennick hires all of them. And you think I'm joking. Okay? All the people that work for Max Sennick Studios were athletes in training for the Olympics that they're like, Olympics canceled, sorry, what are you going to do? Max Sennick, who's a member of the athletic club, just puts the word out and he hires everyone.
Very interesting. What about escort service? Okay, well, they can work as escort service. But anyway, what else this building has been besides the California Club?
That's it. So it was before that I don't know.
But
so
afterwards, what? Is still a club?
no, the California Club moves to 5th and Flower.
Okay, and what is
The
now?
title guarantee building is built. The title guarantee building.
Next door to this.
What?
The auditorium.
We're going to get to that.
Yeah.
Title guarantee building is like the title guarantee company for Los Angeles. Like, it is the preeminent land title company on the Pacific Coast. So this is like all the records for a lot. This is they're the big company, and they build it. And this is what it was. And they leave. I think they leave in the 70s. I think late 60s, early 70s. Title guarantee is no longer here. La Piñon, the newspaper, had its headquarters here, and now it has been converted into rental. It's now residential. It's part of adaptive reuse, and so in around 2003, 2004, they converted the offices into residential units.
Another question, the public library at some point was moved here somewhere in one of those buildings. Which was the building that it was moved?
Go ahead.
It was in the Metropolitan Building from 1914 till 1926. In 1926,
the library, okay.
it moved to where it is now.
Okay.
You're asking lots of questions. Metropolitan Building, which is at 5th and Broadway, which is now Fayas Paredes. Metropolitan Building is
John Parkinson and Bergstrom. The top 4 floors were purpose built for the library.
Oh, okay.
but Everett Perry, who was the librarian at the time, got a lot of criticism because the library had been in the hamburger department store, which was known as the Macy's department store, and it was a department. Obviously, it was a department store. And when the library moved it to the Metropolitan Building, he got criticised for trading a space above a department store for a space above a drugstore, which was quite true. So it wasn't until 1926 that it goes over to 5th Street.
Okay, there was something else. The Philharmonic was also in some of the buildings.
Okay, stop.
Okay.
Stop. We're gonna get to that. We have a tour plan. We're gonna give it.
Okay.
We're gonna get to the Philharmonic.
Okay.
Okay, good. I'm glad you're excited. Okay. We're gonna go into the park.
They're going to
Okay.
freak out about this.
No one's gonna see it because people are gonna be surrounding you. Okay. All right. Let's.
But don't you want me to do my thing here?
Oh yes, yes. Nathan.
Yes, let me say one thing about the Jonathan Club
Anything.
and the California Club. It's a famous adage, which I just made up. But it goes like this. Jonathan Club is for the men who run the city. The California Club is for the men who own the city. Oh. That's the important difference.
It's not British, it's finest.
And yes, and they were taken to court to allow in first blacks, then women, but they're still pretty iffy on the Hebrews. No one's actually taken
I don't know.
I don't think.
I don't know. I'm not
think we can
interested
get
in applying.
Anyway, you were gonna ask.
Moishe Hamburger lived at the Los Angeles Athletic Club.
Yeah.
Moishe Hamburger famously lived at the athletic club, I think because he couldn't be a member.
LAAC was...
Moishe Hamburger's family built Hamburger's department store, which became May Company. So Moishe Hamburger was a very important Jewish businessman who I think consciously lived in the Los Angeles Athletic Club, despite Jonathan and California Club. Nathan, we have to talk about the bath block, which is at the MTA station. And Kim, I need the phone so we can set this up.
Yeah,
for
I
you.
think you got some cool pictures.
We have some really good pictures.
I was going to say that the clubs weren't all that exclusive because they let architects join.
Oh, that's why I never joined one of those clubs. They let in the worst types.
Doesn't the Jonathan Club have the longest bar in town?
I don't know.
You ever been to the bar there?
No, I've never been in the Jonathan Club. No one's ever invited me.
It's huge.
I've been in the Jonathan Club, but they didn't take me to the longest bar in town. I feel slighted.
Okay.
They have really good paintings. Some great California.
Everyone go to your location, former site of the bath block. It's right after the Clark Hotel.
Both have outstanding collections of cleaner artists.
Have you ever been on? Okay, Richard and I have done a lot of work on Robert Brown Young. We love Robert Brown Young. Most famous for his sort of San Francisco style bay windowed, towered hotels, the Hollenbeck, the Westminster, and all of his, and his blocks like the Wilson block and stuff like that. What's really interesting about the Bath block, which he builds in which he designs in 1898, is it sort of has this sort of Flemish Gothic meets sexy Jugendstil kind of thing going on. And Robert Brown Young is, of all the great Victorian, and he lasted until about 1910, architects, and probably the most prolific of all the LA architects. He is the one we have the fewest, I should say, extant structures. And this really interesting one, lasted all the way into the mid-80s, like 1985. It was just so cool. It was so wacky. I know.
Did everyone see the structure? It was right here.
Yeah,
everyone have that? Yeah. Okay. So
it was right there where that I don't even know what that is.
The metro station. That's the MTA station. So the next, there are two photos later, is a photo of Robert Brown Young.
Who we love.
Okay, Robert Brown Young was the architect of the Bath block. The Bath block was gorgeous. I included some photos of the MTA demolishing it, and some of the last photos are photos of the Bath block right before it's demolished in 1982. So this is 82.
Yeah.
All right. You're right, it's 85. Thank you. Thank you. The Bath block is renamed the Willoughby Hotel around 1903. And Kim, you have a story for us about the Willoughby Hotel.
I have a story for you about the Willoughby Hotel. And it's a very small story that tells you what kind of place it is. And it begins on June the 1st, 1910, when a gentleman named A.H. Perkins, who was a railroad brakeman, he's been staying in this hotel for a while, and he's visited in his room by the landlady, Mrs. U.W. Murphy, because she smells some gas. And it was actually a pretty common thing around 1910. People who would come from the country would stay in these city hotels, and they didn't really understand gas, so they would blow the lights out, and people were always getting gassed in hotel rooms, so landladies were very, very careful about the smell of gas. She goes into Perkins' room, he's passed out on the floor, the gas is flowing, she turns it off, she opens the windows, and she leaves. It's about 8:30 at night. About 10:30 that night, she happens to see his friend Howard Shellmeyer, who's a Pullman conductor on the railway, and says, "Your buddy was passed out, dead drunk in the middle of his floor. I opened all the windows and I threw a blanket over him." So the buddy, being a good buddy, goes up to check on him and finds what Mrs. Murphy did not notice, is that not only had he turned the gas on, but he had actually taken all of his clothing and shoved it into all of the cracks in the building. So he was attempting suicide. He had also taken some sort of poisonous pills. There was an empty bottle there. So his friend, 2 hours after this man had been left assumed drunk on the ground, actually called for help, and they took him down to the county hospital, where I'm sure he got a wonderful sort of treatment, as one does. He didn't have a dime on him. But they did, flip his room. They looked all around, and what they found was a bank book that said he had $200 in the Copper Bank in Ely, Nevada. Well, the problem was, it wasn't in his name, and it was actually a forged check. As his picture starts being shown around town, the guys who own the Roslyn Hotel, the Hart brothers, said, "Yeah, we know that guy. He owes us $70. He stayed here." And they start circulating his picture all around the state. There's people all up in Orinda who want him too. So it's a happy ending. He survives. It's an unhappy ending. He survives to be picked up by a county sheriff from Northern California, who takes him up to serve a little time, because he's so out of it when he wakes up, he confesses to everything. That's the kind of hotel.
I love it. I love it.
Kind of place, right?
We're going to cross the street and we're going to enter Pershing Square, and you are going to tell us about John Parkinson's design of Pershing Square circa 1910, and you got the plans. Let's go. You brought the plans. Well, we're doing very well. My backpack is off. I'm very happy. Okay. Nathan, this is a very good question this young lady's asking you. Why don't we identify all the buildings we can see from right here? Let's just go. Let's just get started. So the bath block used to be at that corner. That's now the MTA station. Okay.
Right, and then next to it you had the...
Was it not here?
So you had the bath block, and you had the Bose cafeteria, and then where that big thing is now.
Skidmore, Owings, Merrill. That very modern, it's not even that postmodern building.
That's the Jewelry Center.
Owings, Merrill. That used to be the Metropolitan Theater.
Grauman's Metropolitan.
Grauman's 1926.
Which became the Paramount.
Yep.
Which the famous story goes, it was so well built. This may be an apocryphal story, but I tell it all the time because I love it so much.
That's a great story.
It was so well built that the guys that gave the
Cleveland Wrecking.
No, because Cleveland Wrecking.
Oh, that's right.
So it couldn't have been Cleveland. The guys that gave the bid, they probably lower bid than Cleveland, so they gave the bid to these guys, and it put them out of business because they started wrecking the Metropolitan Theater, and it was so well built that they wrecked it, and they got halfway through, and they're like, "That's it. We did everything we could do," and it sat. And there were with these big billboards out front saying like 60-story modern, Claude Bielman designed, steel and glass to go here. And it sat as a parking lot after two other wrecking companies came in and finally cleared the site. And it sat till about 1981, I want to say.
Yeah, 81, 82.
Till they built that thing.
When was it taken down?
Taken down in like 60?
Oh, long time ago.
Yeah.
The Jewelry Mart,
who would want a giant, amazing, like Aztec Chirigaresque,
no one,
1920s,
no one,
like 5,000 seat, amazing, like
no one,
1920s movie palace.
Jewelry, the California Jewelry Mart is a remodel of a Claude Bielman building. That's 26,
25?
25, 26.
So it's kind of this Beaux-Arts building with a 60s.
That began life as a really beautiful Art Deco building that has been seriously remodeled, like dramatically remodeled to the point where it's unrecognizable. The next building, the medium height building, that starts with a D.
Well, you mean the Park Central building?
Yeah. Oh, that's the Park Central. Yeah, thank you. That's Park Central. And then City National Bank. Those of you that were at the salon, we showed the film clip of the Clifton Camera Girls, and one of the opening shots was of the Union Pacific building. The Union Pacific had its offices in the building there, and City National came in when they demolished that building in '69, I think, and they put up the current building. And directly across the beautiful remodel, Nathan, I'll let you take this. So that's, oh gosh, I can't City, it's Pacific Mutual.
Yeah, so it's the Pacific Mutual from like 1908?
1908.
Let's not jump in on that.
Go, man. Yeah, man, go.
That is a Parkinson Bergster building.
Yeah.
It's a really significant building in the history of Los Angeles because Pacific Mutual moved here after the earthquake in San Francisco.
That's right.
And the banking system, the money system, the earthquake in San Francisco is so dramatic, they're like, we're going to have to move to Los Angeles because we don't want to stay in San Francisco. Pacific Mutual building came here because of that earthquake. John Parkinson and Edwin Bergstrom designed it. I think it was in 1906. Donald Parkinson came back and added the terracotta exterior in the 1930s, and it looks terrible, but he won a design award for it.
Let's talk about, we don't have a photo, but let's talk about the 1908 design, which was this beautiful Beaux-Arts.
Right, yeah, incredible columns.
Big crimping columns.
I'm thinking McKim, Mead and White. If people think of these the East New York architects, McKim, Mead and White is this gorgeous building with renovation and detail.
Well, it's still in there, right?
Yeah, it's refaced. The back is 1906. If you look at the back of that building.
Yeah.
It's just refaced on the street sides.
This is one of the major facades. Yeah. So, Stephen, do you know if Donald Parkinson retained any of the ornament and just covered it, or did they remove it?
I think
they
I think you've covered most of it.
Okay. So it might be under there, but I don't know. I don't know. And then we have the Biltmore, right? Schultz and Weaver, 1924. Schultz and I don't need to.
23?
23?
Yes, it opened October 3rd, 1923.
I apologize. Thank
That's
you.
all right.
Thank you.
And another 24, 25 Schultz and Weaver subway terminal.
Right, the subway terminal building. You can just see that we were standing in front of that.
Eli P. Clark had a hand in both.
So
and,
there's the,
and since we can see it, the gas company tower, which I think is also Skidmore, Owens and Merrill.
Yeah.
There was the Neher & Skilling Auditorium Hotel from 1910, which got a clean lining, much in the way Claude Beelman did the clean lining of the Philharmonic Auditorium by Charles Wilson over there, which had an Arme and Davis Googies, the only piece of Googie architecture to ever be downtown, and that lasted all the way till about 1987-88, where they tore that down and put up the gas company tower.
Perfect. So we have one parking lot left, and that is directly behind this yellow wall, the parking lot right across the street. Hazard's Pavilion was in it. We have it on the app. It's the can I see the phone? It's Hazard's Pavilion. It was remodeled in 38 by Styles Oak Clements as the Philharmonic Auditorium.
Was it Clements? I thought it was Beelman.
I thought Style. Okay.
Was it Clements? Might have been.
It was Clements. It was Clements.
Okay.
So what I want to do is I want to open up number 8. Stop number 8. And stop number 8, as its cover image, has the 1938 Styles Clements Art Deco auditorium buildings. Okay, that's the parking lot, just the other side of this yellow wall. It began life as Hazard's Pavilion. We've got some nice photos of it. So Nathan, do you want to just talk about the auditorium? Paul was supposed to be here. Yeah.
What are you gonna say? Yeah, because I can't really speak to the history of its religious significance or its I think Kim, you probably know most about like the sort of crazy cow fights they had inside of it and stuff like that. But some of the crazy stuff they used to do inside Hazard's
I don't know anything about Hazard's.
I thought you did. Anyway. Yes.
That includes auditorium
Same thing.
with the Birth of a Nation, sir.
Right. Yes. So by 1906, they're building the largest, I guess no, it's by 1905 they're building the largest concrete structure in the world. Charles Whittlesey is a nut for steel reinforced
San
concrete.
Francisco architect, right? Charles.
No, he started here. He was the chief architect for Chesapeake and Santa Fe Railroad, and then left there. And he then went to San Francisco post-earthquake.
Oh, okay,
because
right.
he was
Post-earthquake, right.
such a big proponent of reinforced concrete, promoting his concept of that being the proper construction method post-earthquake.
Fireproof and post-earthquake, and yeah. And so
Termite-proof, yeah.
and termite-proof. I don't know. Some of the termites I've seen with their right through it. So yeah, they designed this sort of like, God, I don't even know how you would describe it. How it's sort of vaguely
Crazy.
historical, crazy,
We're going to put
and looks like a wedding cake.
Even.
Magnificent, actually multiple auditoriums in it, an office building, and it becomes it's clean line, becomes a Temple Baptist Church. Philharmonic Auditorium goes in there. That becomes, well, I guess Philharmonic Auditorium goes in first, under the direction of Baymeyer. And then when they open up the Music Center, that becomes, not as important, so they move into Temple Baptist Church. It's supposed to have
Temple Baptist Church actually.
Well, I guess they've actually been in there since
the get-go. Interestingly, so Temple Baptist Church becomes an early tenant of Hazard's Pavilion on Sundays,
right?
For their religious services, and they become the last tenant of the building for the last 3 years of its life before it's demolished.
They've been there since a little longer than that.
Oh no, you're right. They were there. They were there 15 years. Thank you. Yeah, they were there 15 years.
And the world premiere of Birth of a Nation. Right.
So all very interesting. And Temple Baptist has been lost to us. We can't find it. We can't find the congregation. They've just been lost.
And it was supposed to have had the rumored to have said, or reputed to have said, the finest acoustics, in the world. Some people said the finest acoustics in America at the very least, which is a pretty good reason to tear it down and put it in a parking lot for the last 30 years, 40 years. Wait, since what, 85?
85.
And as such, every 5 years, just like the opening of the Hotel Clark I was talking about, every few years there's like, well, they're finally going to build a 20-story tower or something like that. It's now in the works without the 20-story, 30-story tower, but they say they're finally going to break ground for the 5-6-story thing for that, which should make the people that spend all their money on their lofts in the Metro 417 really happy. Because it's going to block their views, but
are you sure that the auditorium wasn't built originally by the Baptist Church? I thought it was, and then became they rented it out to Clues.
No, I think it's the other way around.
Sure?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
No, I'm not sure. But I'll get back to you. I thought it was the other way around. Kim, I need you. I'm going to direct everyone's attention to the Beethoven statue.
Okay.
Just across the way.
Any other buildings Charles Whittlesey survived?
Oh, Charles Whittlesey buildings. The building between the Palace Theater and Clifton's Cafeteria, the J.E. Carr building. That building is Charles Whittlesey because that's where we met.
Mayflower.
And the Mayflower Hotel is just the other side on Grand. Kim, I see the Beethoven statue. This was put up by William Andrews Clark.
No, in his honor.
Thank you. It was put up in his William Andrews Clark honor, founder of the Los Angeles Philharmonic, which was in the former Hazard's Pavilion. The Beethoven statue has been moved. It used to be looking right on the Philharmonic. So Kim, before we get the other member of the Pershing Square Restoration Society talk, will you give us just some indications about the history of the Beethoven statue and the role of old sculpture in Pershing Square?
You keep an eye on this.
I will. Okay. Oops.
The Beethoven's terribly important. It's one of the newer pieces in the park in 1932. And the neat thing about the sculpture in the park is that every piece that was added, and it starts with war memorials. In 1899, Shafter, who comes out of the Spanish-American War, having been not perhaps the most regal figure among military leaders. He was so enormously fat, he could never go to the front. He was terrified at what was going on in Cuba. He tried to pull everyone back, but he wasn't able to get the word out in time. They ended up taking Santiago de Cuba, and in the course of the success, all of these beautiful siege weapons, which have been stored there for many, many decades, were taken by the Americans. Among them, these two beautiful, decorative French mid-18th century cannon. And he was obsessed with them. He wanted to give them to one of the places that he was going to end up serving the rest of his career. He knew he was going back to California. He ends up at the Presidio, and he keeps...
The Presidio in San Francisco.
In San Francisco. He keeps wiring Washington, send me the cannon, send me the cannon. He wants to give one to San Francisco, one to Los Angeles, because he doesn't know where he's going to end up, and he wants to make sure there's a good cannon in either place. And as it ultimately ends up, he spends his career in San Francisco, but not before he gives each city one of these two incredibly beautiful cannons. San Francisco puts its outside of City Hall. Los Angeles in 1899, at the end of the year, accepts it in this park as a memorial to the men who died in the service of their country because they got some communicable disease in San Francisco before they could ship out. Hey, they died. So the cannon was here for many, many years, and next to it was the Spanish-American War Memorial statue, which was put up the following year, 1900. And then that was not the last war. There was, of course, the Great War, and in 24, the Doughboy goes up, which is by Pedretti?
Pedretti, yeah.
Pedretti. Beautiful piece. And the Doughboy was here, was in this corner. And in every great photo where you see people coming on Memorial Day to remember their friends at the Doughboy, you see the beautiful Biltmore looming in the background. And it was a typical thing in the park to say, I'm going to meet you in this far corner by the cannon. I'm going to meet you by Beethoven. I'm going to meet you at the Doughboy, kind of wherever you're feeling. I'm sure musically inclined romantics would meet under Beethoven. All of that has ended because when this park was redesigned most recently in '94, the statues had moved around over the years, but they'd never left the park, and they'd always sort of been in distinct places in the park, although not always the same place. In fact, under the Doughboy, and I'm continuing to look into this, there was a time capsule. And I believe it's still there because a great deal of concrete was used in 1952-ish in putting it in place, way back in that corner, like where the steps are, and it's probably still under there. But in the '94 redesign, initially the plan was, let's just get rid of all these statues. We don't need them. They're not part of this beautiful plan for a Mexican plaza. '94. This is what we're in right now. That didn't fly because Michael Severall, who couldn't be here with us today because it's a little warm, but he'll be here another time. Michael said this is ridiculous. His wife would. This is, 100 years of Los Angeles history nearly, right here in one place. These are important, they need to stay. He landmarked the Spanish-American War Memorial. Unfortunately, the cannon was already gone. In '51, when they took the park apart to put in the underground parking, the cannon, valuable piece of metal, was sent to, yes, Travel Town in Griffith Park, where children ride tiny trains. For 30 years, children rode side saddle on the cannon and got their pictures taken, and no one seemed to know it was there. When the park did reopen in 51, 50, and 52, there was an old salt from the war who said, "Where's my cannon?" And someone from the Department of Rec and Park said, "Oh, it's just a temporary loan. We can bring it back." Well, I'm sure the old salt died, and that was the end of it. And it sat up there until one of the curators from the Maritime Museum in San Pedro happened to be there one day, realized what it was, and asked the city to bring it down to San Pedro. So it's there. And that brings us to '94. I know I've jumped around a little bit. It's such a convoluted, wonderful story. So in '94, Michael Severall raises a wonderful stink, says you cannot get rid of all of these wonderful statues. They need to be part of the park, but they've already designed this park, and there's no place for the statues. And the notion of putting them in appropriate vistas where you would walk to the corner of the park and see a particular statue that you would remember as being part of Los Angeles history. That, good gravy, that Beethoven could actually look at the parking lot, which was his great Philharmonic Auditorium. No, that cannot be. So they're put into what we've been calling the sculpture ghetto for all these years.
Which is where people see the
dog park. The dog park behind us, where the pink columns are.
Or the dog walk.
It's the dog walk. It's a bit smelly. It is shady. And we've recently learned that the reason they were all gathered together there as a sort of afterthought was they're meant to be in, and when I say this, you're going to laugh, and you're going to say, yeah, I guess that made some sense at the time if you had to justify what you were doing. They're meant to be in conversation.
Beethoven's facing away because he's deaf.
Beethoven's facing away because he's deaf. Everyone else is having a conversation. And yes, there is a cannon there. That's the new cannon that came in the 30s? Yeah. So, but the most important thing is where we are standing right here is the lost memorial. It's not a statue. but it is a memorial to one of the coolest residents of Pershing Square of all time, Benny the Squirrel. Benny was
another tour, Kim.
No, I'm doing it. There was a little plaque and there was a little walnut tree here. And they were here because in 1932, Benny, who was really cute and frisky and everyone dug him, did what he did every day, which was he grabbed some black walnuts from his favorite tree and he ran across the street to the planter boxes in front of the hotel to put them in, and he dropped one and he went running for it and he was squashed by a car. And he was so beloved that they had a little funeral for him, and they said, this is a walnut tree that grew from one of the walnuts he put over the planter. That disappeared. And I think it's gone. It's gone. But I think it should be brought back. There's a wonderful photograph that could be replicated. Benny lives. So viva Benny.
Was it like a little bronze?
It was a little bronze plaque.
I bet it's in somebody's collection.
It is.
It could be down in the parking lot.
We're going to work on it.
Yeah.
Stephen G.
Right.
About 18 months ago, you and I were sitting in Tom Labange's office. We were in a meeting with Carol Schatz. These plans were spread out before us.
Right.
I'll tell this part of the story because you're cringing. Because Carol Schatz.
Okay, keep going.
I'll tell it. I'll tell up to Carol Schatz.
But you guys stand a little closer together. It makes my life easier.
Carol Schatz is the head of the Downtown Central Business Improvement
Okay,
District.
thank you.
Purpose of this meeting is for Stephen, the leading John Parkinson historian, and a member of the Pershing Square Restoration Society, to talk to Tom about how this notion of restoring the park to the 1910 John Parkinson plan. What Tom Labange is a senior statesman in Los Angeles City Council, right? Came up under John Ferraro as his chief of staff.
Okay.
It's as major as we get in this city.
I guess.
I mean, I'm sorry.
He's a good guy, but lame duck. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, but he knows, but we don't go to him because he's a lame duck. We go to him because he knows his way around the city council.
Okay.
We go to him for advice. What do you think we should do? And Carol Schatz said, and Tom says, oh, the city's not going to rebuild the park. Public-private partnership, Carol's going to pay for it. And Carol says, fuck that shit. We pay for it. We run it. We're not interested in running Pershing Square. So we're not going to rebuild it. But that got these plans on the table, right, Stephen? These got the plans out into the world, right?
Yeah.
So now you've got the plans, and we've got copies, and go.
What is this, version 4? How many times has this park been rebuilt?
Well, I mean, this is like 1910 Parkinson. The version before this is kind of messy. So
this is original.
This is a copy of the original. Parkinson believes it's his civic duty. This is such an important park in downtown Los Angeles that he believes it's his civic duty to redesign it. So he offers to redesign it for free. And he simplifies it by creating a diagonal crosswalk intersected by a fountain.
I'm going to pick this up. The predecessor goes back to 1870 or something. It was Central Park.
Richard?
It says Central Park on there.
Right. So Central Park, Pershing is renamed Pershing Square in 1918 after General Pershing was a very good park. And Central Park is its original name. There is a plan for Pershing Square. It dates from 1886. And do we have it? It's really meandering. It's just, there are only points of entry at the corners. And are you going to talk in 32? Parkinson puts in points of access in the middle of Hill and Olive Street because they just find that they're not getting the pedestrian shortcuts. That the pedestrians want shortcuts through the park. So Parkinson in 1930 puts in an entrance here at Hill and an entrance at Olive, and it goes through.
And was this level or was it elevated like we are now?
Radically flat.
Yeah.
David, I think. So yeah, so this park was redesigned a lot.
But unlike the park we have now, this was seen as one thing. It was an escape from the city. It was a simple escape from the city. And if you see old-time photos of it, it has benches lined all the way up. People are walking around it and just getting away from the city. And one of the things we found with the redesign was an attempt to try and please so many people that it became a jumbled, complex idea. this goes back to what parks are really all about, which is just some way to get away from it all. And I guess that's why we were motivated to try and bring this design back, is because if you could create a modern version of this design, then it's a perfect transitional stage for Los Angeles. It represents the history of LA, you know. But if you did it in a modern way, it would still fit in here, you know. Rather than having a design that comes in that says nothing about LA, this would say everything about Los Angeles.
But there were also trees lining the walls.
There were trees lining the way. And by the way, when we had that meeting that Richard was referring to, when we showed the pictures of the trees in there, the first thing they said was, you can't have trees in this park because homeless people will do all kinds of crazy things behind the tree and we can't police it. You know, when all the new plans came up, there were plenty of trees in this, so that argument shot itself down. Well, they've been. I mean, there's been a design that's been chosen.
Let's put off discussion, which we'll have, of what's happening with its current redesign proposal. Let's put that off just for a couple of minutes because the three of us can answer it, and I want you to dig in and just talk more about Parkinson and his legacy in this park and in this immediate neighborhood.
Well, I mean, one of the things that, you know, for me, we often hear people say, you know, Los Angeles has no sense of its history. Putting this back would be a huge demonstration of that. And at the time that we proposed this, they said, well, there's other ways of honouring Parkinson, there's other ways of doing this. But I think, you know, the basic purpose of having a park that serves the people is served by this design, which is, I guess, why we've tried so hard to bring it back. It's not necessarily just about...
Verb is present tense.
Bringing it's not just about bringing, you know, a Parkinson design back. It's a functional design and a place to escape, and it's not complicated. It doesn't try and hit every different button under the sea that you can try and press to keep everybody happy. It's just a simple park. So before I get myself in trouble.
Was it 94? Before that, it worked in the park. Remember they had the old postcards that were made into tiles, and they were pressing them in the backrest of the concrete benches and stuff.
That's over at the corner over here.
That's over at the corner.
I thought that was the older one.
No, that's the more newer part. So the postcards in concrete are a grant that came out of the work that the predecessor to MTA, the LACTC, did. If you go to Grand Central Market, you'll see that the same thing exists on the Hill Street side. And Ira Young got a grant to do that, and so did Pershing Square. And it had to do with some arts program that was really popular at the time as a side effect of funding for art around transit centers. So that was just something that they did in 1994 here at Grand Central Market. So Stephen, talk about John Parkinson. And we're a block away from Parkinson Square.
Well, we mentioned Tom LeBon earlier. Tom LeBon kind of got us Parkinson Square, you know. So I know he has a lot of critics, but he's been a wonderful supporter of John Parkinson's legacy. I got interested in John Parkinson because I used to work in the library tower, and before that I'd worked in Burbank, and I started doing all these tours, and everybody kept saying, that's a Parkinson, that's a Parkinson, that's a Parkinson. And I'm like, wow. You know, this guy Parkinson designed all these buildings, and I went home and Googled John Parkinson and found out that he came from Scorton in Lancashire, and my dad's from Lancashire in England, and I couldn't believe that somebody from England, who turned out to have had no architectural training, designed the buildings that really define Los Angeles. If you look at Union Station, the Coliseum, City Hall, Bullock's Wilshire, I mean, you've seen plenty of Parkinson buildings
Title
today.
Guarantee Building, which we can now see properly because we're not at the foot up.
The first steel frame structure in Los Angeles, where your tour,
Grand Central Market,
where your tour started out. The first skyscraper in Los Angeles, the Braley Block, now the Continental Block on 4th and Spring. I mean, in fact, if you
say City Hall,
I say City Hall, but I mean, if you stand on the corner of 4th and Spring and do a 360. If you stand on the corner of 4th and Spring and do a 360-degree turn, you can count 14 Parkinson buildings.
Wow.
You know, I mean, this guy was a definitive figure in Los Angeles, and you know, there had been no book about him. There had been nothing written about him. I decided to make a documentary about him, and found that nobody wanted to give money for a story about a dead architect that nobody had ever heard of. So I wrote a letter to a publisher and just said, we should do a book on this guy, and they called me back literally the next day, and we turned that into a book, and that's how I met Richard and Kim.
Yeah. That's about it. That's about it. So what do you want to see happen, Stephen?
The same thing as you want to see happen. Thank you for taking my picture while I'm telling you this. I think bringing back this park is such a powerful idea that ultimately all the other proposals will fade away and they will bring it back.
Yeah.
Because it says, Parkinson's legacy says so much more about the history of Los Angeles than any of the other attempts, any of the other designs. And I think that sense of history was grasped at in some of the designs, but in the final design it was completely ignored. So I think it would be a wonderful statement of Los Angeles to really spend some time looking backwards and looking forwards at the same time.
Couldn't you build this and still keep the same elevation? You just slope it?
I think anything's possible.
I mean, it's a staggering amount of money to lower the parking garage.
That was one of the design proposals of the 4 finalists, which wasn't shown. One of the 4 finalists, they actually suggested that you could bring back an axial plan with this incredibly slight ADA compliant slope, which would allow for the parking structure underground to be untouched. It would require minor trimming of the edges, but it would not in any way close down the parking structure. So, in answer to your question, one of the 4 last designs looked at that. We didn't like it. I wasn't a great design, but they did. They did some.
No, I mean, I mean, at least it had some historical context to it, but I mean, it raised a lot of questions too.
Okay, so there were questions about implementation of the current design. I don't know what's happening with it. They have a winner, Agence Terre, and I don't think they've raised any money that I'm aware of. So I think they're going to have to solve that problem.
Who's going to be doing it? The city government?
So it's a public-private partnership between this Recreation and Parks and a nonprofit called Pershing Square Renew, and I openly question how this is going to work because they have no money, but they get to figure it out. I think the city of Los Angeles in the past has had great public-private partnerships. I think the public-private partnership which rebuilt the wholesale markets at 8th and Central, John Parkinson, 1916, right? Terminal Market Building, 8th and Central.
Market, yeah.
Largest building permit taken out in the city of Los Angeles ever at the time it was taken out in 1916.
Yeah.
I think the public-private partnership which built a new market on top of and just beneath this terminal market in 1986 was a brilliant and well-executed public-private partnership. Bringing Broadway On My Mind, Miracle on Broadway was a great public-private partnership. I think they've had great public-private partnerships. I don't know if this is a great one. I guess I said that. Yeah, I said that. So I don't know. Stephen, do you want to wrap it up? I think we're. Bill, do you have anything to add about John Parkinson?
No.
Okay. I think we did it. I think we did it. Does anyone have any questions for Stephen?
I got one last question. So what version are we on now?
The park?
Yeah, what? So
Okay,
you
so
changed from 94 to this, right?
Okay, so 1886 is a major remodel. 1910 is a major remodel. 1930 is a minor John Parkinson remodel where you get the axial plans. 1951, the park is closed.
They built the parking garage.
And they put the parking garage in. It reopens as a stripped-down version of the Parkinson axial plan. And in 86, there's a minor renovation in 64 by the head of the Department of Rec and Parks, who's also a landscape architect, which is interesting. The head of Rec and Parks actually redesigned Pershing Square in 64. Not a major gut, but did a lot of work. And then 84, there's minor work. And then 94, you have the major remodel that we're in right now.
That was like number 10.
Yeah, I got up to 9. Yeah. So, Stephen, you're great. You have a book that's just out on the LA Public Library, and we'll do that soon as a walk after the salon. And if you have questions for Stephen, ask him. I know I want to look at these plans some more. So we're not done per se, but if you want to look at the plans, we're going to be here. So I want to thank everyone for coming.
Let's see the elevations.
And we're going to everyone say goodbye to the we're filming goodbye.
Goodbye.
Okay. Thank you everyone. Nathan, where are you? Thank you very much for your time and attention.